The next product I also had just introduced last year, and it's called the X1. When we come into the X1, it's getting really high-end. That's already the first real high-end turntable we have. Why? Because there's basically everything included what an audiophile is already dreaming about and what is really bringing the turntable to a next level. First of all, I want to say also the X1 is basically the Pro-Ject 1 from the base design from 1991. So this is still from the base idea, from the chassis and the size, that what I did in 1991. And any 1991 Pro-Ject 1 I built is today still a very, very high quality turntable, still today. Yeah? It doesn't look as good as this one, yeah? And you see that, let's say, the technology was not on the same level, but the principles, like a perfect bearing, perfect tone arm, a heavy platter, an MDF chassis, we had already in the Pro-Ject 1. So, what makes the X1 so much better than the Essential? Yeah. So let's start with the chassis. One thing in turntable design is a very, very simple principle. The more high-end you go, the more expensive the turntable are, the more you will see that the turntable have more mass. Why? Because a heavier turntable, a more dense chassis, you can less vibrate by speaker sound or by environment sound than a lightweighted one. You see there's a quite big difference between the chassis. So this is the first thing. The second thing is the platter gets even more heavy and it gets really dead by this acrylic platter. And acrylic you can also machine very, very nice. The next difference is where we mount the motor here direct on the chassis, like basically everybody is doing in the low cost. We're doing a little bit more mounting. We're putting also a steel metal plate around to fix the motor better and to add also some mass to the motor fixing. But on the X1, it's a different story. The motor is already decoupled from the chassis. Why? Because the motor is also a distortion problem. Because the motor vibrates and the vibration comes then maybe to the platter and then comes to the chassis. So therefore, the next level of turntable is always isolated motor. Look around in the world. Who is making isolated motor? Oof, oof, oof. You spend 2,000, 3,000 euros easily. Yeah, so this is already for this price range very, very rare. Then we have a bigger bearing. Why we need bigger bearing? Because we have higher mass. Very logical. And you see this then on my high-end designs. Then you have massive bearings where you have the bearing is like fingers, thumb thick. Yeah? You can really carry very heavy platter. Same story. It takes some time because it's done by super precise components. These are fitted in the factory by hand together. Every bushing with every spindle is fitted together. I want to say some words about the quality control when I'm talking about the factory. Yeah? Every single turntable is handmade from us. We are not a production company who is doing assembling. Every part what you here see, it's done in the factory. The tone arm, the sub-platter, the platter. It comes the raw material in and the product out. So I invite you, if you are in Europe, visit our factory. It's a single adventure because there are not existing anymore factories who are really produce. Existing assembling factory, but not production factories. And we really produce and the product from scratch. What is the next big difference? Yeah, is very important for any turntable is the turntable has to be even flat, that the cartridge can track in the right angle. Yeah? Therefore, we gave the X1 detachable, adjustable fits. Yeah? You see? Here you can do it, but you need some supports, which is not really audiophile. Here we have simple feeds. Here we have feeds, they are damped and out of aluminum. So there is aluminum, and we're working very intensive. We're working with a material called thermoplastic elastomers. These are modern rubbers, very high-tech rubbers, which we can produce to damp exactly the resonances what we want. And in these feeds are these rubbers. Also, when we're talking about rubbers, we have in the counterweight thermoplastic elastomers. This is super high-end. Please search for X times the price and look at damped counterweight. Why this is so important? Because the cartridge and the tone arm itself makes a very high resonance frequency. You know this when you're driving with your car, because your car is also a spring, and you have a street with waves, and when the waves have a certain frequency, then the car starts to shake. Exactly that happens. The cartridge is a cantilever which is put on a rubber, and that moves. And here, that moves too. So it's like a spring, and that causes a resonance frequency, and we damp it here. So that means a more quiet sound, a more stable bass. The bass is much more transparent. Where we're using here aluminum, we're using here carbon and aluminum. Why? Because carbon transports the resonances way faster to the bearing block. So this is a superior material, again in one piece, very high end, very rare to find in this price range. Next very important product is the cartridge. So here we're using already a very, very high-end cartridge for $370. Okay. That's for a turntable in this price range. Nobody's putting so expensive cartridge in this price range to such a product. Additionally, what is the next sign of high-end quality? Where we have here a radial bearing. We have here a cardanic bearing. Here you have much bigger ball race bearing than here, where we have ball race bearing where only one pin goes to the bearing. And you have 4 pinpoints. You see? When you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the friction of that arm is way, way lower than this one. In high-end, it's standard, but I mean high-end $3,000. We do it also in this price range. We did it also in the Pro-Ject 1, by the way. My first turntable was a cardanic bearing. In the first project, actually, we had even the hardened steam point on a sapphire. We put this away. Now we have Swiss watch ball race bearing inside, a micro ball race from like watches. Before it was sapphire, it was even better, but we had to change it because the dealer had to adjust it. And that was for 90% the dealers are no, because I'm sorry. Be happy when you have a very good dealer. Here we have I think I have the feeling to be in a very good dealer. They can do for the customer this service. But still, if you want to make the maximum out of the turntable, you see here and here on the side, you can still tweak the record player a little bit. We have a tooling for this. You can get the tooling, but please very careful, because that's high-end. So you can make the bearing just perfect, because by transport and simple also by the temperature difference, metal is moving. So if you want to really go high-end, that's the trick. Therefore we have it. You will not find this anywhere so precise that you can make so much more out of a turntable. When we're talking about adjustment, that's the first turntable, whatever in that price range, for maybe even X times the price, which has a vertical tracking angle adjustable. So I can move the arm upwards. And on the side here, when you have a look here, I have also azimuth adjustment. What is azimuth adjustment? Azimuth adjusts the tone arm in the horizontal. Why this is needed? Because not every cartridge is glued perfectly. And when you're looking precise, you will see some cartridges are disaligned, and therefore you need azimuth. This is all high-end. This is not relevant for entry level, but for high-end, yes. And I said, this is already a high-end turntable. So this is very important. The VTA, by the way, you have here to adjust. This is this screw. I didn't mention before the flange, where we have in the low-cost turntable, we have a flange, a low-cost type of flange, which is a certain type of artificial plastic in simple way. I don't find the high-end word for it, but it's Kunststoff plastic. Here we have an aluminum one, which is machined. So much better flange. The speed control can do 78, but for that you have to change the belt to the bigger pulley and have to change the cartridge to 78. Anyway, so that's the X1.